Joining me, former federal Labor MP Michael Danby, who was chairman of the Joint Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade, and former Labor Senator Steve Conroy, former Cabinet Minister. Michael Danby, Albanese, Wong, Miles, all refused to back Israel's attack on Iran's nuclear weapons sites. They said Israel should go back to negotiations. That strikes me as dangerously naive, in fact, lethally naive, and an act of betrayal. What do you think?
We've moved very far from the days of Kim Beazley and Bob Hawke, and indeed, even when Stephen Conroy was in there. They are the three blind mice. Would they ask for Britain to negotiate with Germany in the middle of the Second World War? There are ballistic missiles with one-ton warheads landing on civilian neighbourhoods in Tel Aviv, and all the boring socialist left from Adelaide has got to do is to advance parochial, childish cliches, shibboleths about going back into negotiations and restraint. No, the Israelis are going to go for victory. They're going to once and for all finish this Iranian nuclear threat, and the whole world will thank them, as they did when Menachem Begin bombed the Iraqi nuclear reactor in 1980. They cursed them to their faces and thanked them behind the scenes. And I'm sorry, the world, this is a time when you have to decide what side you stand on. And you're very right, Andrew. If I was an American, if I was Elbridge Colby looking at the Australian AUKUS deal, I'd be very suspicious given these three answers, including the saddest of all is from Richard Marles. He demonstrates the total vacuousness, emptiness of the Labor right. There's no Labor right anymore in Canberra. It's surrendered to the socialist left, to Wong and Albo.
Is that correct, Stephen Conroy? Your faction has surrendered to the socialist left, so then go around like this, refusing to, support Israel's act of self-defence against Iran?
Well, look, Michael and I have stood shoulder to shoulder for many years inside the Labor Party on issues like the right for Israel to exist, for the right to Israel to be able to defend itself. But I am confused by some of the arguments that both you and Michael have put this afternoon. I just must have missed Donald Trump saying thank you. Oh, really? If you can pull up some footage of Donald Trump saying thank you, Israel, I'm eagerly look forward to seeing it. And as for...
He said go ahead.
You know, well, he said that after the fact. He wasn't saying that before the fact. In fact, he said the negotiations should be allowed to go on longer. But I mean, I know there's no point in listening to what Donald Trump says. He's a pathological liar on his best day. But importantly, Australia have done exactly what Donald Trump's done. Donald Trump said, come back to the table. I stopped the Ayatollah being killed so they could come back to the table. So when Donald Trump says, come back and negotiate, he's a hero. When Penny Wong, Richard Marles or Anthony Albanese say, we want you to negotiate, they're traitors. I just think there's a little bit of a double standard.
Stephen, you must have missed a bit of the traitors.
We didn't say they were traitors. We said they were wrong. And I wish that you were there, not them, because you're completely different. Beazley was completely different. Hawke is completely different to these kinds of people. We've got the weakest international leadership. Imagine we had Starmer, Macron, that fellow in Canada, and Albo Wong during the Second World War. Australia would be speaking Japanese now.
Stephen, can I just add, though, there's one thing that you missed in the grab that I actually played just 2 minutes ago. You had Trump actually saying sometimes countries need to fight. They need to fight. And not only that, is shifting American resources to the region to help Israel defend itself. I think there's a long way from what Wong, Miles and Albanese said today.
Yeah, well, Trump also has the view that Russia and the Ukraine should keep on fighting too. I mean, it's pathetic.
Red herrings. I'm out of red herrings,
day.
Mate. I had red herrings up to here from you last week.
You want to praise Donald Trump.
Stick to the issue.
You want to praise.
No, I don't want to praise Donald Trump. I want to criticise this government's decision.
Come back to the table. He has publicly stated, I've seen it a dozen times over the last few days, come back to the table. And that's exactly what the Labor government is saying. And as for this issue around the submarines, let's be clear. Not Donald Trump, not the US administration have unambiguously said they would fight a war in Taiwan. Yet you and Michael are advocating Australia should sign up to fight on the Americans' behalf in Taiwan when the Americans haven't done it themselves. That is just bald-faced hypocrisy.
Again, I haven't said that.
For those who are saying,
straw men, Stephen, both of us, straw men. Neither of us.
I'm sorry, you have just said, how can the Americans trust Australia if they won't commit? And that's the questions that Albo was asked.
On Israel, in the middle of the
specifically
fight,
went to Taiwan.
Attitude.
And specifically, no, you're the ones who raised China. You don't get to pretend you didn't say it, Michael.
I didn't.
Quotes were played of Alba being asked questions.
I did say it.
Attitude.
So I did say it in the context of
to support.
Hang on a sec, Stephen.
Equivocally, Taiwan. Never.
Hang on a sec, Stephen. I said it in the context of Australia having already betrayed Israel, shown itself to be an unworthy and untrustworthy ally. How can America trust us when we don't also commit to Taiwan? That was the point. And when you say Trump says,
let's be clear.
Oh, well, Trump is saying no different, you said, no different, come back and negotiate. You omit the bit of one of his Truth Social tweets, I think it was, saying you do that or else there'll be more, right? Words to that effect, there'll be more. He is not ruling out you come back and negotiate or you get this double. So that is a big, big, big difference. I don't think all the viewers know that. Now,
and Andrew, he has provided intelligence and weapons in the meantime. That is a pretty big thank you that the Israelis have got. So they see America on one side and they see all of these weak, shivering people, the leadership of Australia, Britain, Canada and France. It's terrible. They're in a war. They're being missiled. Civilians are being killed deliberately by the Iranian regime. And Australia wants to offer restraint and more conferences. Nothing is going to happen until this is resolved.